offering his help of people that wanted to further their education. To me, he helped in math. Is what I said. I needed some brush up in math, so he would come and help me. So that's all I know about Vista, except what I have read in the papers. That he came. They would come and help the Valley Migrant League, and I guess the Valley Migrant League would send them out to the camps to help people.
I know oftentimes I've heard that Vista has been associated with the Chicano movement.
Mm-hmm.
In what way has the Valley Migrant League in its own right been involved in the Chicano movement, or if at all, has it been associated, or what kind of lines can we draw from that?
I have no idea. I've never, because the Chicano movement they talk about, I was never, I wasn't too much into that. To me, it was sort of a radical group, and it's an older person. You're set in your ways, and the only thing I know that they sent a group of people from here to a conference in California, and I think that was sponsored. I'm not sure if this is true, if it was sponsored by the Valley Migrant League or how they got there. I know that my oldest son went with that group over there, and there were several people that went into California to where this thing was going. It was going big, Here, I don't know if ever got very big. I was never involved with all these things. I couldn't tell you very much about them. So I don't know if it was or wasn't involved in that. That's the only thing that I heard, that a group had gone to California to learn about this, about the Chicano movement. As I say, I don't know if it was sponsored by the Valley Migrant League or not. I couldn't tell you for sure.
On the other side of things, from hearing John Little interviewed, when he talks about the Valley Migrant League, he says it was paternal when he first came there, and he wanted to make it more self-serving for the people.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, right, what programs either were there or changed or just kept going that weren't very self-serving for the people, that maybe were negative and could have been brought about in a different way that would have been more resourceful for migrant workers?
Well, for me, as I said, the things that I was involved in and the things that I heard about, I think that they pretty much what we had, especially in this area, because we were a group from this area, and we'd meet with the headboard over in Salem, and of course we'd be fighting for our area, that we wanted this and we wanted that, and the thing we fought more was for child care. That was our goal. When we bought 7 acres, we put on sold food and did a lot of things, and eventually to build a child care center, we bought 7 acres in between Dayton and McMinnville, and so it never came to be. I guess with that, it got, and the members began to leave or do and get old or die, and so the thing happened at the end. I guess the association just couldn't go any further, and I guess the land, I think that I heard, I'm not sure what happened, but I think it was donated or given to YCAP, I think. But in that's one of the things that I think that Valley Migrant League wanted to do, was that people build their own child care and run it themselves, and so that's it.
Well, you obviously had a very big family, for what we consider a big family these days. Give me some kind of day in the life, a short day in the life of what it would be like from the time you get up, making meals, and having that big of a family between you and your husband and your kids. And just an average day, what would an average day look like?
Oh, in my family?
Yeah.
You mean? Well, the main thing was getting up and getting to class, and after 72, getting to work, because I started working right after Linfield, and that was in Woodburn, which was, I had to drive over there almost close to 40 miles. For 10 years I did that. But, the main thing for me was easy, because my husband the only work that he ever did was a field work. And here in Oregon, there's no field work in the winters. Mm. And so we reversed our roles. He took over the housework, and he did all the cooking and the cleaning and the everything that I was supposed to do here at home. So that was easy. The main thing for me was he wasn't able to do all the writing the bills and doing this and seeing that the money. So that was my role, which was hard, to see that your money was enough for this and that, and for the children's schooling and all that. But the mornings, as I said, it was it was up to him. He'd get the kids up and have them get them out to school, and he'd have something. He'd be cooking. He learned how to knit, because we knit. The Mexican Americans from Texas, we always do our flour tortillas. I'm not. People ask me, and I said, I'm not into corn tortillas. I said I eat a taco, but I hardly, because I don't like corn tortillas that much. But it's flour tortillas. So he'd knead the dough and make the flour tortillas, and he'd cook beans, and the kids would say, Dad makes potatoes. One day he makes them with eggs. Then he'd put sauce. And I said, be quiet, stop complaining. At least he's got something for you to eat, But that is to me, when you work together, a husband and wife, and the kids work together, because my kids, I always tell them, everyone has to work. We all have to work here in this house. I said, from the moment I bought a washer and dryer, I didn't wash any clothes. If they had dirty clothes, they brought them down, they washed them themselves, they put them away. They knew if they needed clothes for school next day. My husband washed the bed sheets and his clothes and stuff like that. But they were upstairs, and they were supposed to keep their clothes down. So, if you guide a family right, it's not that hard, It's just, to me it wasn't. It wasn't because of him, I always tell people, I tell people I didn't earn a degree at Linfield by myself. My husband was part of that degree, because I said, I'll never tell a person that my husband was uneducated, because there are so many ways of being educated, because you go to get a degree in college. And I said, a degree doesn't make you educated if you don't know how to use it. And I always told my kids, you don't ever feel superior to anyone, but you don't feel below anyone. You're all, and don't act like because you have a degree. I used to tell the ladies, because most of the ladies, I was fortunate because in Woodburn, I had all these children, so I met a lot of people that I knew, the mothers, grandmothers of the children that I had in my kindergarten. Here I was at the winter day school, so I was a teacher aide in that school also while I was teaching. So I had a lot of the ladies and the grandkids and that had been in my kindergarten classes, and I would tell the ladies, I said, don't feel because I know a letter or two more than you do that I'm superior to you. I cannot even hold a needle straight, and look how beautiful clothes you can make, and you can knit, and you can do all these kinds of fancy things, which I can't do, So, and that's the way I feel. Like you don't feel I try to tell people, or act. For myself, I would say, well, I don't know how to do this, but I know how to do this, you know. So,
So, when you were in Iola Village,
mm-hmm.
what were the housing units like there, specifically?
Ayola, well, it was just a frame house. It was just, as I said, it was a kitchen and a little living room, 2 bedrooms, and a small bathroom. That's all they were.
So, at what point did you decide, from traveling to Texas, coming to Oregon, that this was going to be your home and that you were going to stay here? Your husband was a field worker and there wasn't any work here in the winter, so obviously you had to make a decision that he wasn't going to go work somewhere else.
Well, the thing was that, as I said, our roles were reversed because I was, by that time, as soon as I got here, started studying, and then I went on and on and on, and then so it was up to me to be put in as head of the household, because that's the way I got into Linfield, because they were saying, and I think that they saw this as a was it called when you can't get into this program because you're Mexican or you're black or you're what, or you're segregating, or but that's the way in my family, that's the way I got into Linfield, because they said, well, my husband didn't speak English, he didn't know how to read or write, and so they said that then I was the most, so they put me in that role, that I could go and that I could attend Linfield. And it wasn't our goal to stay. We came to California, and then there was no work there. The work ended, and so we said, what are we going to do here? And this man came by, and he says, you want to go, I'm going to Washington to do the asparagus. And he said, you want to go? And I said, and my husband said, oh, we might find work here. And I said, if George, which was our next to the oldest son, because the oldest son had gone back to Texas, he drove us to California, or the family. I stayed back in Texas because I was waiting the arrival of my our youngest daughter. So she wasn't born. They left the end of May, and my youngest daughter was born till the 6th of July. About the 20th of July, I get on a bus with a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and the baby, and my daughter, who was about 9 or 10, that she was the one that helped me with and we drove almost 3 days on a bus at that point to get to California. And so when this man came by and said they were going to go, and my son didn't even have a driver's license then, but I told my husband, what are we going to do here? We were out there in the middle of nowhere. I thought I'd never like California, but now I do, because because we were out there in the middle of nowhere. No one ever came by. There was another house full of people from Mexico. They were all men. When my husband left for work, I'd locked the door, and I didn't even want to look out the door. And but we never had anyone come check and say, hey, is there any need? Is someone here in need or anything? It was owned by Russians. There was these houses. They were pretty nice houses, just frame houses with a bathroom, but they were pretty large rooms. The kitchen was large, and the other room was pretty. And so we stay, and I said, if I ask my son if he says yes, we're going. I said, what are we going to do here? So we did, and that's how we got into. We left California, and came to Washington. It was the what's it called? Well, anyway, it was one of those camps that raised produce for canneries and stuff like. And we weren't there, but from April, we got there April the 7th, and on July the 4th, we arrived here in Oregon. Because a farmer from here came and was asking for workers if we wanted to come do the boysenberry and the different berries that came after the. So we did, and we came down here, and I guess that's the way we stayed, But our goal was, I had thought, at that time they were in Los Fresnos, that little town that we lived close to. We lived out in the country. It was called San Roman or Bayview. I think you may have heard it in the news. That's where they keep the immigrants, that come across it's called Bayview. They've got a camp out there. Well, we lived right by that place. And so in Los Fresnos, when we left, they were just building the first houses, low-income housing. And I thought to myself, I said, maybe if we go back, we can get into one of those low-income houses. And, but no, that's how it happened, And we came here and did on the farming, and then we were at Ayola, and I started at Linfield, and then got this house. Here we are. I said, and here we're staying. I said, and here I'll be buried because my husband's already buried here. So why go back? Why me go back to Texas when his remains are here? So yeah.
So in the end, it was an education in that program that enabled you to become a permanent resident and have a house. And I'm sure other people had a similar experience and were able to establish themselves in the area.
Oh yes, well, quite a few of my friends. We have, right now we're only about 4 of us ladies left that we get together, every once in a while, have potlucks and of the older, and most of it came to be in the same situation, they came from being out in the farm, and then they got a little lead from people, that were working, that, as I said, like I said, the Yamhill, the Valley Migrant League, people would go out and ask them if they needed jobs or find them jobs and things like this. So that's the way, So most of the people that stayed, and as I said, the opportunity was there, but the sad part of the opportunities and that are there, a lot of people do not, the opportunity, they give it to you, but you have to move. No one's going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. It's a lot of work, and as I tell people, it's not easy. But to me, it was easy because I understood some of the women that had no husband at home, that were raising children, and it was very hard when they couldn't continue. But if you got someone that you have to, and aside from that, you have to have, it's a good thing.